So, like I said, I did not put a horizon line, so to speak, on this because I was working in my studio, which has different light and different environment and all that. So, I'm looking at my bottle. The great thing about still lifes when you're using something like this, unlike a flower, is that they don't change. So I painted it the way I had it set up, and then I took it from downtown to here, and I'm able to set it up exactly at the right angle that I wanted it at, that I worked on it when I did the underpainting when I was in the studio. So it's in the exact same position, but the background's totally different. So what I want to do really quickly, now that I'm in the real environment, I'm quickly going to sketch out my background, which I had not done before. I'm just going to add a tiny bit of liquid to do this, like that. And so now I'm looking at, and sometimes it helps literally to close one eye because then you don't have the binocular vision. So I'm just looking at it, and it's like basically if I look here, there's the, so this is the, it goes over there, like that. Maybe down here like that. Okay, and I'm not really worried about accuracy. I can block it in later. So I'm looking there, and then behind it, you know, I've got this easel. And it goes down here like that. You know, again, I'm just blocking in the background kind of quickly. So I've got that easel, then I've got another one that's coming over this way. That goes down, that goes across. Now, this one's interesting. I wish it wouldn't keep moving, but this is interesting because I'm looking over here, and along this edge, there's kind of a red stripe that's painted on the side of this little podium right here. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I can get a little color in here. Otherwise, it's pretty boring, you know, and your backgrounds are kind of boring. I mean, it's a boring room. Then behind the bottle, I see a podium off in the distance. And again, I don't want these to be the focus of the painting. They're just providing a backdrop. Okay. And that's it. I'm like, okay, now I got an easel, I've got a podium, I got another podium, I'm good to go. Okay. I'll come back and do these later because I want to show you how to like really focus on the bottle. Now, I'm looking at the bottle, and what I see first is this gray, this like really dull gray. I'm not going to get into all the detail of the splattered paint. I just want that gray. I'm looking at the bottle and through the bottle, and it's the same gray, but the bottle distorts the gray. I'm looking at it here, and it's kind of a neutral gray. Along the edge, it looks to me, it looks darker. He said zooming in. Okay, it looks darker here, and it gets a little lighter here. The gray is lighter than the surface on this side. It's darker than the surface on this side. And it's pretty much kind of in the middle all the way up here. And up here, I'm looking through the plastic to that podium. So instead of it being gray, it has this kind of brown tone to it. So I just want to block out basically the colors. It's easy to get distracted by all the little highlights. Try not to. Down at the bottom here, I can see, like actually this shows up pretty good on the video. Okay, down here, there's a bunch of really interesting different reflected and refracted shapes. Basically, it's a really light gray. I'm not gonna do the detail now. I'll do that Wednesday. But I just wanna block all the colors in and just get a feel for it. So I didn't put a lot of detail in, but really quickly, this is what I'm gonna do. First, I'm gonna show you how to mix a gray out of blue and brown. Okay, so if you ever need grays, this is how you do it. So I put a little ultramarine, I put some burnt umber, and I put some white. It's a good color mixing lecture, because this is different mixing than what we've done before. All we did was mix all the main colors to get a highly saturated color scale based on the spectrum. We did that, and we mixed complements together, And then we tinted the complements by adding white. Well, that's what we did before. Now you're making your own gray, which is slightly different. Because I want it to really look gray, like not a warm or cool, but a neutral gray. And you just kind of have to experiment. So I take some blue, take some gray, take some burnt umber, add a little white so I can see it. That's still a little too blue. I add a little bit more brown, a little more white. That's a pretty good gray. That's a gray. How gray is it? It's too light, right? I'm painting the surface. I'm like, yeah, it's a little too white. So I need more of both. And I'm literally just going to paint it until I think I'm pretty close. That's still a little too light. There we are. And so, yeah, there we go. So, okay, I painted it like this. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty close. Probably could use a little more brown. Done. Okay, go. Just take some liquid, and I'm just blocking out my gray. So I'm mixing some liquid in just to paint it quickly. And the first thing I think of is, is there a color or a colored shadow kind of underneath it? Yeah, it's a little bit darker. Well, first I'm going to get all this down. There's a little bit of shadow under here. So I'm going to make it darker. You'll see I'm also letting the underpainting show through a little bit because I really don't care yet. I can still put more layers down and make it more opaque. But for now, I'm going to take just the blue and the brown without the white, put a little shadow in here. Again, it's a little rough, but that's okay. Now I'm looking for my lights and darks. Like, what is dark? Well, I'm looking at the bottle, and again, like I said, on this little part right here above the base, it's darker than it is here. And there's also a little where there's water in it. See, boom, like that. Where the water meets the back of the bottle, and I talked about painting back to front, where the water meets the back of the bottle, I see like this dark kind of area like this. It's just like it's the ellipse, because you're looking at a cylindrical thing, and I'm just painting this in. And when you're looking at a cylindrical thing from an angle, it's made up of a bunch of ellipses. I think they teach this to you in like basic drawing and stuff. So I'll just leave it there because it's a fun little UFO. So that's there. So I'm just doing I'm getting the base down. Now I'm doing a little shadow area here. This is kind of dark here. This is kind of dark here. Like that. Now, I am deliberately, as you can see, I'm avoiding painting over what will be maybe the highlights. I can always paint them later. I don't want to lose them because I spent a lot of time locating them, kind of placing where they're going to be, and then doing a line and then scratching it out with my palette knife. So I don't want to totally eliminate that. However, it's a little dark in here too. Like that, it's dark. And again, I might be overdoing it. It really isn't this dark. Yeah, I'm just kind of doing it for extremity's sake to show you the difference. So that's there. Then the rest of it is pretty much, and I'm squinting, just so I'm not looking at all the detail. And basically, most of the inside of the bottle down where there's water in it, looks pretty much like the surface. It isn't lighter, it isn't darker. It's a little darker on this edge, it's a little lighter on this edge. So I'm just going to go back to the original gray.
Cool.
Yep.
I think it stopped recording.
Why?
It says the connection was lost.
Oh, sad, thanks. Yeah, maybe something happened with the Wi-Fi. Oh, well. Yeah, that sucks. Anyway, well, you get the idea. We'll see where it stopped. I'll try starting it again. Actually, let's see if it is still going, but it's not doing anything. Yeah, we're at 10 minutes. Let me reconnect. Because actually, this is a good part coming up. The good part's coming up. Okay. Thanks for noticing that. Stupid thing. I've been having that, actually, that's been happening even at home. I think also what happens sometimes, there's some, like I will be at home and it will spontaneously disconnect and I'm like 10 feet from the router. Okay, now it says it's hooked up. I can always edit this out if I'm talking and looking at my phone at the same time. Okay, let's try it again. Recording. There we go. Thank you for noticing that. Okay. Okay, so again, I'm looking at the base part, and the gray looks pretty much like the gray on the surface. So I'm just going back to the gray I painted on the surface and filling in like this part. Now, then I talked about how this like looks, there's this really interesting super reflective area down here that's really light gray. So I'm going to mix in the white. Okay. Like that. Awesome. There's also a little bit of that coming up to this. With a little bit blob like there that's really light. And then it gets a little bit lighter on the other side. So I mix a gray that's light but not that light for this part down here. Then the rest I go back to the original gray and fill that in here. So I'm just blocking the color out. I'm not getting into detail. I'm just